unfortunately, my plans didn't work out too well when on my drive here to Seattle. So I was coming from just near Chicago, actually Northwest Indiana, driving out to Seattle for my day job. I'm a traveling construction superintendent and was traveling out here to start a project. It's going to be an 8-month project, which is kind of neat that I get to be out in the West Coast. I'd actually never been to Seattle before. So I was looking forward to it, and obviously I planned on taking my camera or bringing my camera with me, all my camera gear. I was going to be out here for 8 months and to explore the state of Washington and hopefully maybe even a little bit of Oregon and hopefully even maybe a little bit of Canada, go up into British Columbia. So what an awesome trip, and I was very excited to go. So I planned my route and I was pretty excited. I was going to be taking I-90 pretty much the whole, actually 80, and then up 29 and over to 90, and then 90 pretty much takes you all the way into Seattle. And I was going to spend several nights in hotels, and I'd planned out my whole trip. So I got up ready to go, started off on my journey. Now, knowing that it is the winter time and it can get pretty rough driving on 90, and then especially when you get into the mountain passes, in this the weather can change in an instant, and you can get snow and everything else. So I was optimistic, but I knew that there was probably going to be at some point some issues with the weather. So I started off on my journey on a Sunday morning. I got going a little later than I'd hoped for, but it was okay. So I headed out around, I think it was like 10:45, 11 o'clock, heading through Iowa. Made it through there, I ran up 29, and then I ended up stopping in a place called Mitchell, South Dakota. So I stopped there, and I hadn't planned on doing anything, but what I had planned on is waking up from there early in the morning and heading to the Badlands, which from where I was in Mitchell, it was about 2.5 to 3 hours. I was hoping to get there by the sunrise to the Badlands and getting on one of the peaks, where you can see the peaks of the Badlands, and hopefully the sunrise would be decent and it would, they'd be colored or glowing or whatever. So, but again, weather was going to be an issue. So I ended up getting to the Badlands, or I ended up getting back on 90 in that morning, 4 a.m., and it was bad. I drove for about 50 miles and it was okay, and then I saw a couple people slid off the road and everything else, so I was very cautious. Luckily I was driving a 4-wheel drive truck, but that doesn't help you. If the roads are bad, that doesn't help you too much. So what I did is then I pulled off the rest stop. The rest stop was a sheet of ice, and then so finally in the morning I got back in on the 90, or I sat there for a little while, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, just kind of napped a little bit and waited. I knew I wasn't going to make it for the sunrise, but at this point I'm thinking I just need to make it. So I get back on the road a little bit, start going down another maybe 10 miles away, and the road's closed. So I knew I was going to have a problem. So from there, the road was closed. So actually they had closed the roads at a bridge, and they were letting everybody turn around. So I turned around, went back to this place called Vivian, I think it was, South Dakota, and then I headed down the south to go around the storm. So what I forgot to mention in my original recording was that when I did have to turn around and go, because 90 was closed, and go south, I looked at my GPS and it told me to go down to 83, and it was kind of out of the way. But I could see that there was another road, and I couldn't figure out why my GPS wasn't letting me go down that road. So I ended up going down that road, and after about 10 miles on that road, all of a sudden it said the pavement ends. And so this is a picture of where the pavement ended, and I ended up going through South Dakota, around a bunch of ranches and everything else. And it was pretty much a dirt road. I was pretty much off-roading for the next 15 miles. So it was an interesting little drive, and I stopped to get a few pictures there, and this is one of those pictures. I ended up going to a place called Pine Ridge, and then I ended up going over to Hot Springs, and then I ended up going over to Newcastle, Wyoming, and finally up to the point I was trying to get to was Bozeman, Montana. And I finally made it to Bozeman, Montana after 17 and a half hours on the road. It was definitely a difficult day. And so from there, I stayed in Bozeman, and then my plan was to go to Yellowstone. But really, with the weather and everything, it didn't work out. It was overcast, and at that point, I just wanted to get to my destination safely. So so at Bozeman, I got up in the morning and headed out there and left to go to. I was heading to Spokane, Washington. So I started on my drive there, and everything was going pretty well until I got to the pass, the main pass going right from from Idaho into Idaho was a little bit difficult. It was raining, and not so much snow, but it was raining, and there's a large pass there that you have to go through, go up into the mountains and come back down. And then I made it over to, then I came out of that pass, and now I'm got to go through the pass to get you from Idaho into, because you're only in Idaho for about 50 miles, so get you over from Idaho into Spokane, that pass. So I got through that, and then I got to this little town called Ellensburg, Washington, stayed the night there. I got in there about 8:30, so it wasn't too bad. I was originally going to stop in Spokane, but it wasn't that late, and I had enough time, and I thought the least I have to travel the next day, because I had to meet some people from my day job, so I wanted to make sure I was there in plenty of time to get into my Airbnb and all set up. So then now I'm going to, now I'm at Ellensburg, and I figured it'd be a pretty easy drive into Seattle. It's only a couple hours. But I got to the pass there. I wish I knew how to pronounce that. I should find out somewhere. Salpami Pass or something like that. So I go for that pass, and it is just snowing and blowing, and it's, I thought, at one point, there was a bunch of cops on the road. I thought they were going to close the road. It was pretty rough going there, so it took me a while to get through that pass, and then once I got there, obviously everything was pretty good after that. It was still raining a little bit, but yeah, that pass coming through there in the Cascades, I didn't expect. It was just out of nowhere, all of a sudden just started coming down, raining hard, and then these big snowflakes, and it just, when you're not used to driving out there like that, it can be a little unnerving sometimes. So you just gotta, the slush on the road and the way it moves you around. And so, like I said, luckily I just kept it slow. They actually lowered the speed limit. They have variable speed limits on there. I lowered the speed limit down to 45, and just put it in four-wheel drive just to give me that little extra bit of traction. And then I kept going. So then I finally made it to my points here. So it was definitely a difficult day. I was a little bit of white knuckle driving, and wouldn't you know that, I was really hoping I could get to the Badlands, even more than Yellowstone, really, because Yellowstone at that point in the winter like that is really rough, and I probably wouldn't have. I didn't have a lot of time, so it's not like I'd have been able to see a whole lot, and it was pretty rough day as far as overcast. But I was hoping to at least get to the Badlands, or at least one of the two, and it just didn't work out that way. But overall, I'm here. I made it safely, and that's really what counts. And so, now I'm here, and I am checking out all the different, a lot of hiking available in Washington. My problem is I'm not in very good shape right now, and I'm going to have to get into good shape, because most of the hiking here is into the mountains, and it's waterfalls and things like that. But you have to be prepared to hike up the mountains, and it's tiring and tough, and so anyway, we'll see you again in the future once I get some hiking in and get some photography done, hopefully some waterfalls and some beautiful mountain peaks, and I'm here safe. That's what counts. Thank you, and take care.